and he happened to be 28 years old. And he's in our top 10 globally, which means, to give you a sense, he's making mid seven figures. But you almost have the what do I have to lose by calling on someone? And this whale that he called was a self-made guy, and he literally said to him, he said, I don't get as many calls as you think, and that was one of the reasons I was willing to do this for you. If you've been in the business 20, 30 or more years, 40 years, you kind of know what to do, but you just necessarily don't do it. And I know that sounds ridiculously simple, but it's ridiculously true.
Man, have I got a great guest for you. I've got the CEO of NAI Global, Jay Olshonsky. Damn, that's a tough name to say, Jay. How are you?
I'm good. Good to be with you, Joe, as always. Thrilled to talk about the real estate business, the brokerage business. And it's actually a good time to talk about a lot of it because there's been a lot of change and there'll be more change coming.
Yeah, I think there's going to be. So now you've been the CEO over NAI for 13 years.
That's correct, yes.
But you've been in commercial real estate for close to 40 years, right?
Actually, 41 and almost 42 years that I've been. It's actually all I've done since I graduated college a long time ago in one form or another. I've been in commercial real estate.
Well, 13 years of being the head of a brand like NAI Global, that's something. It's a brand. We deal with a lot of your agents here in Los Angeles, and most of them, they're top-notch people. I definitely love to work with them.
Well, one of the things that, and thank you, one of the things that's so unique about NAI Global is, unlike some of our larger competitors, we are a collection of independently owned and operated commercial real estate firms that then fall under the NAI Global brand. That we, in general, they'll have a geography around how they're joining up and being part of NAI. But there's no question that, even in the 13 years I've been here, it's changed a lot. 75% of our existing offices and members are new to NAI in the last decade. We, of course, still have about 25% that have been with us. In some cases, 50 years. We just celebrated our 50-year anniversary last year. And I always like to say it's wonderful to have history. It's wonderful to have performance like that. But it's only relevant as it goes forward, because we can all name a lot of companies that have long-term historical anniversaries that are no longer here. And so the biggest challenge, even for myself, is not the last 13 years, but really the next 13 years, or I like to say the next 2 to 3, because it kind of gets even blurry for us to see past 5. It really gets blurry. But the one thing I will tell you, though, we have concluded there will always be independently owned and operated commercial real estate firms because of the nature of commercial real estate. And NAI Global wants to be that place where those firms come together and be part of. And so we do believe our long-term future is quite bright.
Well, you're on a strong path. Now, you've got 325 offices around the globe, right?
We do, in 55 different countries. Most of our business, though, Joe, is in the United States and Canada and Mexico, but we do operate, outside of what I call the mainland.
And you have about 5,000 employees?
Yep, all of those firms make up about 5,000 total employees. I think we have about 3,000 what I call revenue producers or brokers or people responsible for driving revenue. Because to give you an example, like a lot of our European independent members will have people that are salary plus people versus commission only. So it's a little bit different model than in the US. But in the US, I'd say probably 95, maybe 98% of our independent offices have, independent contractors, straight brokerage, different formats. So it is very traditional. It's in North America.
So now, under your leadership, how many new offices did you come in to really expand and add new offices, or what were you planning on doing when you're getting started?
Well, two things. When our current shareholder, our current owner, which is a company called Island Capital, and they're a private merchant bank in commercial real estate, headquartered here in New York. I was brought in to, really coming out of the 2009, 2010 financial crisis. NAI Global was somewhat in crisis at that time too. So I was brought in to really right the ship and to, um, get our membership and our offices under control, and then of course to fill in and grow it from there. And that's what we've done. We've certainly, like I said, we've had about 75% of our members today. We have about 185 individual firms, but about 75% of them weren't here before I started. So we have a very robust plan on when there's an opening in a market, or if there's an open market where we've never had a member, of trying to attract as best an independent firm as we can. And in some cases, those independent firms are formed by 3 or 4 individuals leaving some of our large competitors, starting their own boutique shop, and then becoming a member of NAI because they realize they're very comfortable having an international or a global presence. And if they just become Joe and Jay real estate company, they don't have that. And so it's hard to get or compete on that level of business. So that's something else that we work really hard to, as we always say, like you live and work in Los Angeles, and certainly Los Angeles cold, but at some level, we give you the best of both worlds. You get to live and work in Los Angeles and own your business, but you also can work in London if you want. You can also work, in Dallas. And we have we do about 500 transactions a year where member A will send a piece of business to member B. And that can be as simple as, Los Angeles to San Francisco, or it can be as complicated as, London to Shanghai, for sake of argument.
Right. Yeah. So you really came in as kind of a turnaround specialist, I guess.
I did. Yes. There's no question that there was an element of that we had to turn it around, and we did. And we're very proud of the accomplishment we got to. And now the challenge is we've been maintaining quite well. We thought COVID was going to be a killer for us, like it did a lot of people. And we kind of, except for the first 6 to 9 months of COVID, we kind of sailed right through that. And then, it was shockingly how we actually attracted new members during that time period because people were looking for alternatives. Mm-hmm. And even now with the change in commercial real estate, I was talking, I had head of new members recently, and, between him and myself, we've been actually shocked how many new members we've gotten in the last 45 days. And we think that's a function of anyone that woke up in 2024, they kind of said, well, I got to have a different plan. And part of that plan could be, I'm fine locally, but I need to be associated to a regional or a national firm. And it's not like everyone can join CBJLL or Cushman. It's just not that simple. So right. We try to be that alternative for people that don't want to, they want to be independent, but they don't want to necessarily be at what I call the 6 large competitors. And keep in mind, I love our 6 large competitors. I just try not to compete with them. That's really the key. Yeah. And I think they're wonderful places, and they each have their pluses and minuses, as any firm would have.
Sure. Now, what are your biggest challenges going forward right now? Is it bringing in more members? What is it?
I would say the biggest challenge right now is getting all of our offices and all of our people in those offices to adapt. That things have changed drastically in the last, I would call it, I guess some people would call it 3 years or 4 years coming out of the pandemic. And certainly then the interest rate rising, the work from home aspect, to really get them to say, no, it might not be change forever, meaning that we'll never get back to where we were, but to kind of get them into a mindset that this is the new normal. What we're doing now is we will probably look back and go, this is the new normal. And I still have way too many people that will say to me, oh, well, it used to be. And I'm like, we can't talk like it used to be. We can only adapt to what it is right now and where it's going. And that, because of also an aging commercial real estate population of just an age, That's hard. And so, and then you have newcomers to the business that, are coming into the business with whole different skill sets, whole different ambitions and dreams. And, as you and I've talked before, different things, the use of social media, the use of, different technologies, soon the use of artificial intelligence. All these things are going to not 100% change the commercial real estate business, but they're going to have major effects on how we go about helping an owner, helping an occupier in their need for whether it's office, industrial, hotel, retail, whatever space they need. It's going to change. I mean, just when I think about some of the information that's now available to us, that we can deliver to our clients, whether it's cell phone data on traffic, or it's buying power if you're a store, or migration patterns for your employees. And this isn't in past time, it's in real time now. And then people can make decisions off of that. And that's not even counting that some of our great information sources and our great data sources are getting better, some of the legacy ones and the stronger ones, and some are, being challenged by newcomers that make them get better and make the newcomers better. So we're in a very interesting time. I like to say that, when people say to me, "Oh, it's just going to be the same in 5 years," I always go, maybe, but maybe you should prepare for it not being.
Yeah.
And my opinion is it won't be the same. And the easiest way to think about that is look back 5, look back 10 years if you've been in the business. The major thing that has changed the commercial real estate business and all business has been technology and the use of technology. When you think about, if the pandemic would have hit pre-iPhone, how bad would it have been? Because we couldn't have stayed home.
No.
We couldn't, the office worker couldn't have stayed home. If the pandemic would have hit when not every house had good high-speed internet,
Yeah.
we couldn't have stayed home. So there's so many things that I like to say, and these things, kind of like Moore's law, these things don't multiply like a little bit; they multiply a lot. And so I do believe we're going to see some big changes going forward. Of course, real estate is local. Of course, real estate has a physical component to it. Of course, you can't have artificial technology or, let's say, online system, show a building, talk to somebody, do what you and I are doing right now. But keep in mind, there were videos long before you and I were doing this video right now. But I'm in New York City and you're in Los Angeles, and we're doing a video that will then be put onto probably a lot of different social media and websites in different areas that we'll go out to. You just couldn't do this before Zoom without a lot of time and technology. And, I can remember days of getting video crews to come in and do these videos. So I'm not saying that this will be the highest quality one we've ever seen, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. It's, honestly, Jay, it's not that long ago if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's really, it's something. But, in the 13 years that you've been CEO, today I really want to talk about leadership. And so, and how has your role changed in the 13 years at NEI Global?
I'd say the biggest change is been embracing the next generation of commercial real estates and adapting to leading them. Because, in a certain regard, if you've been in the business 20, 30 or more years, 40 years, you kind of know what to do, but you just necessarily don't do it. And I know that sounds ridiculously simple, but it's ridiculously true. I've been quoted, and people will take this the wrong way, but it's okay. I believe that 80% of commercial real estate brokers really don't get it. I believe that 10% of real estate brokers are off the charts, like really off the charts,
Mhm.
and make all the money or most of the money. And then there's 10% that make up the 80-20 rule that want to be like the top 10. And year in, year out, trying to show people that having a multi-diverse team that can be diverse in technology or diverse in gender, or could be diverse in
Mhm.
skill sets, could be as simple as who's cold calling every day for your team. I know that sounds like a very simple statement, and logically you go, okay, well, that makes logical sense. But then when you go deep in leadership, and I try to explain to people, but you really aren't doing it. You might do a couple $1 million a year gross commissions. You might do $500,000 a year gross commissions, and you're still dropping everything the minute Joe or the owner or the user says, "I need you to work on this deal."
Yeah.
And it's not a new concept, but the concept of closing your marketing and sales department while you're in the manufacturing of something is something that I spend a lot of time still trying to lead and educate people um, to do that. And I don't have to do that with 10% of the people that work, because
Yeah.
10% of the people already got that. They've got 2 or 3 people calling every day. They're
Yep.
using every prop tech that's worth using. They're using even the legacies like CoStar and LoopNet and Crexy, and well, Crexy's not legacy anymore, but our RCM or Lightbox. They're already using those tools, not because someone sold them on them. It's because they actually work to help drive efficiencies to their customers or their own teams. And trying to lead people to, I'm not a CoStar fan because I'm a CoStar fan. I'm a CoStar fan because you need to use it to your advantage and
Mhm.
things like that. So that's where I spend most of my time still having to educate people and lead them in the direction of you can do better. You can do much better. One of the things that I actually learned, which I spend a lot of time, Joe, in leadership on, is what I call stretch goals. And stretch goals is something that was taught to me by a past boss of mine 25 years ago, which basically said, okay, let's say I'm making 500,000 gross commissions myself right now. And most people would go, oh, well, that's okay. That's not bad. That's, $250,000, $300,000 worth of income, better than the average Joe, better than a
Mhm.
lot of people. But the real question isn't that. The question is, why can't you do 2 million? And when you phrase it that way from a leadership point of view, you usually get 2 reactions. Usually get, oh, that's impossible. Or my market's not big enough. And then you have to try to lead them to the question of, okay, well, let's break that down. What do you need to do 2 million? Well, that's 10 deals at 200,000, right? That's, 2 deals at 1 million, or that's a whole bunch of deals at 50 grand, and that's a whole bunch of deals at 20 grand.
Yeah.
So, when you kind of get to that aspect of how can you do it, not so much that you can't do it. One of the things I hate, and my team hates it because I always do it. I hate it when someone says, well, you can't do this, or we don't do it that way, or this is how we've always done it.
Mhm.
And I kind of equate that to, you take any top producer in any city. I don't care what they work at CB or NAI or JL. I don't care where they work. No one probably ever told them they couldn't do what they're doing right now. If
Right.
anything, the leader encouraged them to do more and to figure out how to do more, how to be more efficient, how to have more teammates, how to expand their deal size, how to expand, their aspects of their geography if their market truly isn't big enough to handle, additional income. Keep in mind, this is not a new concept. Everyone thinks, oh, this is new. This isn't new. I mean, I can remember, there was somebody I knew, and I forget where in California, I'm going to go 30, 25, 30 years ago. He's a top salesperson at one of the national firms, and he was in a market that was way too small for the amount of money he was making. But he basically punched way above his pay grade, expanded his geography when necessary,
Mhm.
had 60% market share in the space he was in. So that's where I spend a lot of my leadership time, and also trying to educate my lay leaders that run each of these offices, and not just accepting mediocrity from what they're getting, is to give these same goals to their local offices. One of our top producing centers of business is one of our offices in South Dakota. Now, that ain't an
South
NFL
Dakota?
city. It's, huh?
South Dakota?
South Dakota. It's not an NFL city. So what do they focus on? They focus, of course, on local business,
Right.
but they know their market's not big enough to just do local business to make the kind of incomes they want to make. So they're part of NAI Global. They wake up every day and talk to people, where can I help you? So they've expanded their geography, they've expanded that net. And then I spend a lot of time on also encouraging people to get reverse mentors in leadership. That's something else that I to this day consider my mentors, maybe because I'm getting older, to be, most of my mentors right now are at least 10, if not 20 years younger than me. And sometimes they come from different backgrounds, not necessarily in commercial real estate, because I consider them very smart individuals that if I really have a question, they can give me good advice. So I encourage a lot of, because as you and I know, there are a lot of people in the business 20, 30 or more years,
Yep.
and they don't know how to use some of the tools we're talking about.
Mhm.
They don't know what social media is,
Right.
but they could very easily figure it out if they were to just get somebody that could be working with them, that they would treat as an equal, not a, punching down junior, to just help them do the business, because then the junior can also use them when and if the gray hair is needed or the experience question comes up. I always hear commercial real estate people say, no, Jay, it's all about relationships. And I go, okay, I don't disagree with that. But if I had, and I use the example that if my brother is, let's say, the head of real estate for one of the largest real estate owners in the world. Let's say my brother was one. And I come in and go, hey, you're my brother, so you're just going to give me the business. He didn't get to that position by just giving his brother that business. Now, if his brother, matter of fact, it's probably harder for him to give his brother the relationship business,
Absolutely.
just because of that. But if I come in and say, well, here's my team, here's all the things that you should be concerned about. Here are all the reasons how we're going to save you time, money, and effort. And we're going to touch all the nuances. Then sure, I might have relationship, but relationship only wins when it's equal to or better. And that's the hard part. People, and it's changing so fast. I mean, I hear deals all the time where someone said, oh, I know the guys for 20 years, but then they hired a new person and they didn't call me. I'm like, right. They didn't call you, and it's hard to stay up on that too. It's very hard.
Is that
So that's a
trainable?
long answer to what I've been doing, in
No,
my
yeah, no,
leadership.
it's perfect because
It,
is it trainable? Because I sometimes struggle with some of our agents of, I see that, their worth, their value, and for some reason they don't see it. How do you get them to, I guess, say believe in themselves or understand what they could be doing? That's something I struggle with. I get very frustrated sometimes.
well, we have to back up to also say our compensation models in commercial real estate don't always attract the best and the brightest, period,
Sure.
because of alternatives the best and the brightest have to get salary plus jobs with unlimited upside, whether that's in finance, whether that's in law, whether that's in tech. And so it becomes hard in my mind to identify the person that you can hire on a draw against commission, or someone that's kind of on the edge, almost making it, but not really financially making it. use Los Angeles and New York, by example. You can't live on $30,000.
No, you can't.
You can't live probably on $50,000.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I still hear people say, well, I grew up that way, so he's going to get a $3,000 draw against commission, and he better have his parents lend him money if he needs money. I'm like, well, I have two kids. I mean, I've got two kids that went to college and all that stuff. Neither of them in the real estate business, not because they weren't interested in the real estate business, but they had better opportunities. One went tech and one went finance. And candidly, they had unlimited income opportunities there too. And so I think that is something I'd love to see changed. But back to your question, which is how do you identify somebody? The hard part in identifying them, I do think there are a couple common traits that I've seen over the years of people that become tremendously successful that you kind of look back and go, you could kind of see it even young. One, are they really working that hard? And that's a big statement, but a simple question. Like, are they working 8 hours a day?
Right.
Are they working 12 hours a day? Are they working on nights and weekends? And I know that and there's an old saying, just because you're there doesn't mean you're working. So working means you're actually working. You're actually learning something, getting better, or how often are they talking to an owner or a user? That's
Yeah.
something I always focus on. If the answer to that, and also deep down, everyone knows how hard they're working. So, if you're truly talking to an owner and a user 5 or 10 or 12 or 15 or more times a day, and I'm not necessarily talking about it's got to be a Canvas call, but are you trying to talk to owners and users? Are you trying to set up meetings for Joe with owners and users?
Mhm.
Are you trying to set up, try to just, when you go to do market research, are you going and walking it so it has a different feel than it has if you just look it up on LoopNet or CoStar or some system? Uh, you know, those are some of the things. Plus, there's a high correlation in my mind between burning desire to be wealthy or make money in our business. And, at some level, if you don't have the desire to make a lot of money in the commercial real estate business, I think it becomes hard to make a lot of money. And you need to think it through. I mean, I had a young man that I hired a long, long time ago that, was a very aggressive college athlete to the point of view of almost being obnoxious. I mean, like almost obnoxious, but he knew how to talk to people.
Sure.
But then I'd say to him, well, what's your day consist of? And he'd look at me like I was an idiot going like, well, I got nothing else to do. So I'm out canvassing all the time.
Yeah.
And so I went out and canvassed with him one time, and guess what? He was canvassing all the time because you could see it. So I think that's part of it. Also, treating them more like equals than juniors, I think, Joe, is a big thing because, you can't expect somebody. I kind of look at that in a leadership aspect. If I'm making the most money in the brokerage shop and I don't have people that are approaching my income level or something like that, in a certain regard, that's not leading them correctly. I mean, I've always had the approach that there's got to be a lot of people making a lot more money than me so we can all make more money.
Yeah.
But creating that competitive environment, I was with one of our top 10 guys 3 weeks ago at our annual convention. And I'd never met him before because he's new to our top 10. And I knew he was younger. And I said, how old are you? And he told me. And he happened to be 28 years old. And he's in our top 10 globally, which means, to give you a sense, he's making mid 7 figures. I go, how did you do it? And I said, how long have you been in commercial real estate? And he said, I've been in the business 5 years. My family is in the business. So he had a role model that he doesn't work with his father. His father's in the business. He said, so he had a role model. And I said, well, hold on. You went from like 0 to 3 to 4 million that quickly gross. And he said, yeah, no one told me I couldn't do it. So
Yep.
encouraging people that they can do it. And I said, well, what was the big key to how you did it? He said, I kind of identified a void and I filled it. And, and that's another way, like he basically identified a need that other people weren't doing. He also brought in a partner that was able to give him what I call the experience level. But he brought in the partner, not the partner brought him in. So, so back to your question, it's like I would be asking the people you think are going to make it, what do you need to go to the next level?
Right.
And it might surprise you. They might
Yeah.
answer something simple as, I need you to take these people to lunch because I don't have the money right now to do it. Which if you're meeting with an owner or user as the owner and the manager of the company, I'm sure you'll do that.
Mhm.
And so I always encourage people to, I recently had somebody say to me, well, you don't have a separate ranking for women in commercial real estate at NAI versus men. And I said, well, wait a second. We're all commercial real estate brokers. We're not
Yeah.
supposed to discriminate on sex or anything like that, or gender, or whether you're a male or a female. So, well, and they were kind of saying, well, the men are always ranked higher than the women. I said, well, that's not true. Maybe the men are ranked higher this year than the women, and maybe so almost saying to them it's okay for you to get there, I think,
Yeah.
is another big aspect of and sometimes people don't do that because, I mean, look, you've been in business a long time. Most real estate brokers talk about what I can't do or what I can't call on, or I can't do that, or I won't be able to do this before they even call on the person.
Yeah.
And now, in fairness to older people, we had an older broker of ours cold call what I would call a whale. And he basically cold this guy. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he said, no, I'd never met him before, but I thought I'd call him. And he called him and he got him to do something for him. And it was very non-threatening. And now he's getting a piece of business from this person. But it's almost what I call the old pretty girl syndrome. No one ever wants to ask the pretty girl to dance to
Sure.
dance. But
Yep.
you almost have the what do I have to lose by calling on someone? And this whale that he called was a self-made guy, and he literally said to him, he said, I don't get as many calls as you think. And that was one of the reasons I was willing to do this for you. Again, but it's all about you can instead of
Yeah.
you can't.
Yep. I had an interview with a recruiting meeting, and it's with a broker at another company, and I don't know his exact age, but I'm saying he's in his early 70s. And I said, why at this time do you want to switch companies? And he goes, because I want your support. He goes, I see what you guys do with your marketing. And he goes, I want to be part of that. He goes, I want to learn from you. I want you to teach me how to do it. He goes, and I want to grow my business. And so, that's something I can get behind. That's somebody that you can say, okay, well then let's do it.
Well, what's interesting is I always say to people that, because people always say to me, what would you do if you quit your day job? And I go, one, I'm not interested in quitting my day job, but if I quit my day job, I would probably do what you just said. I'd probably call someone I like and trust a lot
Mm-hmm.
that has a commercial real estate firm. I'd probably do that in a geography that I want to live in, as that's, let's say, probably warmer or nicer. New York's pretty nice, but it's a little different. And I probably would focus on my one stretch goal, which would be, how do I make $1 million gross? And how much do I have to pay to you if you're the broker? And then you would say to me, well, Jay, what do you need? And I go, not that much,
A phone.
I don't even need a phone. I have
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah. True.
I
Yeah.
don't need a computer. I have one of those.
Yeah.
I probably would say to you, if I'm paying you a percentage, maybe you could give me access to whatever, subscription services you have.
Yeah.
Because, but even if you said, well, no, I don't have those like CoStar or other things,
Mhm.
I know how much those cost, and I can bake that into what, what my needs are. And then I would spend my day going out saying, I'm Jay Olshonsky. I work for, Joe's company. I sell real estate. And I would go out every day trying to talk to owners of real estate saying, I think I have a better system at a better price to sell your property. Now, I'm not going to convince everyone that that's true. But all right, from 9 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I try to talk to owners because I think I would be on the sell side of the business. So I don't know, even if I do one an hour, that's 10, that's like seven, right? So if I do two an hour, I'm talking to 14, I would try to have breakfast, coffee, lunch with an owner if I could get an owner. I would take all the public data you can give me and put it on a pretty, sheet with my name on it first, and then your name on it, your company name on it second. And I would build my business and build my brand in the market area. And if you said to me, well, no, I'm not going to hire you on this, I'd go, why? And if you said, well, your price was too high, I would go, how about a lower price? So I think that we forget sometimes that it really isn't that hard, but you just have to have the discipline to wake up at 9:15, call somebody and say, hi, I sell commercial real estate. I wanted to talk to you about your warehouse. Hi, I sell commercial real estate. I wanted to talk to you about your apartment building. Hi, I mean, and at some point, then you need to follow up. I don't care if it's a 3x5 card, but I like Salesforce as a CRM. I'd put it into I know how to type. I don't need an assistant to do that. So, I think we're getting back to that. And I know that, you and I have spent a lot of time with branding and social media. I think there's a space for the personal brand along with the company brand. So, I do believe those are areas that we're going to see in the future.
Yeah, I agree. The when you're out there, you're bringing somebody new on, and I guess your case would be bringing on a new franchisee. How do you get the new franchisee to really understand your mission? This is what we want. This is what we do here, and this is the way you need to do it. How do you get them to do that? And have you had any cases in your history that it's just not worked out, and you said, okay, let's part ways?
Yes. The answer is it's a very long process, and yes, we have had cases where it doesn't always work out.
Right.
Let's start with explaining what we are and to them. So everything that we do and everything that we, in one form or another, it is revolving around what we call the brand of NAI Global, or the firm of NAI Global, and that's based on three things. You're independent. That's one. Two, you're global if you want to be global. And three, we have a whole lot of tools and different things that we can provide to you for you to be local and never be anything else, but just have the name like NAI Capital in Los Angeles. Or we can give you all the tools for you to expand your business and do business everywhere across the nation. We have members I've never met in person, but
Okay.
they pay us annual fees every year to be part of NAI Global. And when I ask them when they renew, why are you part of it? I've never met you. I've never seen you. They go, we want to be the brand in this location. So that could be one. And then we have members that we see all the time. We talk to daily. We have a whole onboarding team. We have a whole marketing team. We have a whole member services team that basically provide all these different services to these individual companies or individuals within the companies. They attend all our events. They go to all of our client facing, all of our training. We have an immense amount of training from both local, what I call local easy entry level, all the way through senior agent training. And they're very different, the type of training. And there's one correlation I can tell you. The people that are more involved, surprise, surprise, tend to send and receive and do better every year. But keep in mind, I spent 15, almost 16 years at CBRE. It's the same thing there. the more involved people, more focused, meeting all the different CB people, trading, best peer practices. Guess what? They tend to do better. So it's not, again, it goes back to my 80-20 sort of analogy that 10% are great and 10% want to be great. It's no different within NAI Global. And we have had people that, only focus on what business can be sent to them. And those are generally the ones that will leave NAI when they're disappointed that they never do anything. And then, they never get any business. But I call the business being sent, it's like roulette. We know the wheels in Las Vegas and Atlantic City, the wheels spinning every day, the ball's dropping every day. Well, there are deals being sent, almost 1.5 deals per day at NAI Global. I just can't tell you that the ball's going to land in Los Angeles tomorrow. Or more particular, I can't tell you it's going to land in Santa Monica tomorrow. Because if someone wants to be in Orange County, you're not getting that deal, for sake of argument. So it's those are the aspects that we push and train for, and the reason we get together, the reason that we have all these different specialty groups, whether it's corporate services, whether it's industrial, whether it's capital markets, so you can be peer to peer. So if you're in a small market, let's say Bend, Oregon, where we have a wonderful member, but it's a very small place, you can bring the same things being done in Los Angeles and New York and Atlanta to your market because you're part of a peer-to-peer group. And then all of a sudden, when someone says, why do I hire you? Well, this is the same thing that everyone uses in the major city. So we try to, really educate. And as you know, we have lots of different training that we've used over a time period, also with social media. So we can create someone's, their aspect of where they stand and, multiply it by huge ways beyond the traditional ways. Keep in mind, we also have like 15,000 point of purchase signs, and they all kind of say NAI on them. And I know that sounds ridiculously simple and stupid, but every month I get a call from a member saying, I was traveling and I saw this, and they send me a picture. So, it is, at the end of the day, brand recognition. Most public people do not know what NAI or CBRE or JLL is or what we do. But for the people that we know what they do, that know what we do, we want to make sure they understand, that we're one of the leaders in that group.
Well, I think one thing that you said was, the training, not just for beginners, but you keep training as you go. And a lot of smaller firms, they'll train the new people that come in, and then you're on your own. And I can't tell you how often I've sat in with some of our more senior agents. And, now I'm not in brokerage all day, every day. I'm in operations with our companies and doing this, of course. But, there's things constantly changing. It's important to keep that training going throughout your career. It's
it also changes, what you need to train people on. We train our senior people on how to win. That's very different than, we don't need to teach them what a lease is. We don't need to teach them, what a submarket is or what a clause of a lease is. What they need to get better at is going when they have 5 really good competitors, and how can they be different? And lots of times that has nothing to do with what I would call commercial real estate. It's more in the delivery of service and the expertise of service and going extra mile. You're correct. It's very different training for an experienced person versus an entry or even a lateral person. The other thing, I know we talked on leadership. One of the things I do try to encourage on leadership is specialization. There's no question that, just as simple as, if you break your knee, you're not going to the dentist to get your knee replaced. You're going to the specialist in knee replacement. No, well, just like if you're a law firm, you don't want to find out that it's someone's first law firm deal, or something like that. It sounds, but it is true. And it's like when people say to me, oh, I'm just going to jump into industrial. Well, why don't you start doing some flex, which is office and industrial, and then maybe you can build up to it, because it's, if you really think, Amazon's just going to call you because you decided to become an industrial broker, or Prologis is going to call you, that maybe they will if you've got some better system than others are better plan, or you're going to work harder, or you're going to be cheaper, or whatever. But the odds are, you might want to get on an industrial team and then apply some of those great things you're doing, et cetera.
Absolutely.
We do a lot of work trying to encourage people to not be generalists, to really be, at least have one or two specialties. I prefer one, but and then take it from there. And I think I can point to hundreds of examples of existing brokers, especially in the capital market space.
Sure.
You got guys that do loans and debt and equity, but they don't sell buildings. Or
Right.
you have teams that sell retail, but they don't sell office. And then occasionally you have some that do both. But it's a very interesting thing and that's going to get more specialized, because technology has completely leveled the playing field in certain things. And so you're really selling time and service at that point.